So I want you to picture this. You're driving down the road and you're with your family and you're looking for somewhere to eat quick, right? And so you pull up your phone and you're like, my family wants to eat Mexican food. And so you put Mexican food near me and 20,000 Mexican restaurants pop up. And they're in order for a reason. One is how many reviews they have, how much social proof do they have, and then two, it's going to be what stars they're at, right? So how many reviews they have and what's a rating of review. Now, I want you to sit there and picture that there's two restaurants that you really, really like as you're driving. You gotta pick, right? They're near me, they're about 5 miles away each, and there are two that look really good right up my alley. One has 300 reviews and a 4.4 rating. One has 6,000 reviews and a 4.8 rating. Based off of that information alone, where are you going? Obviously, I can answer the question for you. You're going to the restaurant with 6,000 reviews and a 4.8 rating. Now, the crazy part is the restaurant with the 4.4 review might be better, right? Maybe, or they might be very similar. But the most important thing is, why are you choosing? And you're choosing because two things: better 4-star reviews and more reviews, right? So my point of this is saying that it's important as a business, whether you're a restaurant or not, but especially for restaurants, that you have reviews. You have lots of good reviews. The more reviews you have, the more business that will bring you. You have to look at your reviews as a profit generator. They're going to bring people in the door, or they're gonna keep people from coming in the door. It's a lever, right? How many people do I want coming in, how many people I don't? And that's what kills me, is most restaurants don't focus enough on this or don't give it enough effort, even though it's clearly a profit generator. In this video, I wanna show you how to get more reviews, how to get more 5-star reviews, how to measure those reviews, and actually have a system in place to get all of that up and running. In the restaurant industry right now, everyone's feeling it in the United States. Labor cost is 35% up, food cost is 35% up, rent's up by 15%. Everything is up across the board. Your margins are doing this. Everyone's margins are doing this. Now, we can either sit back and take it, or we can do something about it. We can learn the rules of the game and play to win. So we can widen those margins. And the only thing that's gonna widen those margins is we don't wanna cut into quality of product. We don't wanna cut into quality of service by cutting labor. What we wanna do is widen that margin by sales. Sales are what widen all margins. Sales fix all problems. So as a restaurant owner, I wanna look at how can I get sales in my business, okay? Now, there's a litany of different ways, but most restaurant owners just say, I'm gonna turn on the lights and then I'm gonna throw some stuff on social media and I'm gonna hope people come in, right? That's my business model, right? Maybe I'll do some work around the community and get notoriety that way, get awareness that way, and all that stuff is fine. But let's focus on actually strategically building plans in order to get people in the door. Stuff that you're already doing. We call it a flywheel, right? You already have someone coming in, we put them in a flywheel, and how do we get them to generate more business for us? That's the way you wanna do it. You never wanna look at a guest as one sale. A guest is not one sale. We want to take a guest and look at it as, how do I turn that guest into 3 guests? That's what I want to do. Every guest that walks in my door, the hardest part of the business, getting someone to walk into my door, how do I get to turn them into 3 guests? That's what I want to focus on. So you do this a couple ways. Obviously, you have to get them to come back. So that one guest stays one guest, right? One guest this month turns into one guest this month. Because when you do that, now you have a snowballing compounding effect. When people are walking in the door and they're coming back, that's how your business builds up. Business after the second year in restaurants statistically is 80% guest retention. So I want to maximize that. And then I also want to make sure that they're telling their friends and family about it. I want to give them such a great experience that they're going to be like, you have to go try that place. The third thing we can do is get them to leave a review. And that's where everybody, for some reason, sleeps on that, right? Why am I not focused on giving good reviews? And I've worked with so many restaurants. The biggest pushback, and it's rare, but the biggest pushback I get is I have managers, they'll say, Preston, if they have a great experience, they'll write a review. If we give them a good enough experience, they'll write a review on their own. And that's not true, because I can pull anybody off the street, including myself, use yourself as a case study and ask them, every time you have a great experience at a restaurant, do you leave a review? No, you don't. In fact, it's so rare. Statistically, and you can look this up, people will almost always leave a review when they have a bad experience, but they very seldomly leave a review if they have a good experience. That means if you have 100 reviews right now that are 5 stars, you could have 1,500 reviews. But because you're not asking, you're just relying on people to leave it, there's only a certain type of person that leaves reviews when they have a good experience. And that's awesome, and I'm glad they're there, and I'm glad they exist, but we cannot rely on them because we're business owners, and we're trying to grow our business, and we're trying to do everything we can in our power to grow that business, especially with resources that we already have. This doesn't cost any more money. So you're either wasting wasting those resources or you're using them. And so we want to focus on making sure that we're giving the guests the best experience possible. And then at the end of the meal, we're asking for reviews. Now, I did this with a restaurant that I'm working with. They have 3 locations. We implemented this. And about 6 months later, they had 1 employee in 1 location that did 140 reviews in 1 month. That's just 1 employee. That was who hit the highest number. We've worked with restaurants that have had over 1,000 reviews a week using the same process, and it's super simple. I'm gonna show you how to do it, but it takes commitment on your part as an owner, and it takes consistency from your staff. All right, guys, just real quick, I know this is a lot of information that I'm throwing at you, and you're probably like, whoa, that's crazy, but actually, a lot of times restaurant owners or business owners in general tend to overcomplicate things, and that's what we do at the 30%. We make things simplistic, right? We make training and systems, leadership development simplistic. It's easy to teach it, it's easy to learn it. That's our philosophy. How do we make things simplistic? How do we teach complicated process in the most simplistic way? Because most of the time, training falls apart because it's just too complicated. And the trainee gives up, the trainer gives up, and then it becomes this huge mess. So if you're interested in learning more, I have a free resource that you can download in the description below. Just click the link and it'll tell you exactly what to do. But this will make things so much easier when you're looking at all of this infrastructure. And so the first thing we want to focus on is if we're going to get this review, right, we want to map out the guest journey, right? And the guest journey is going to be here the moment we either create a reservation or when they walk in the door as a walk-in, all the way to the point when they leave, right? The last thing that we're going to make sure we do is make sure that they leave that review. We're not going to ask them to do it. We're going to actually get them to do it in the restaurant. But first, we have to go through this process. So when they walk in the door, I highly recommend that you map out your guest journey and map out each touch point that the guest will have with your staff. Once we map those touch points out, now we got to figure out ways to make sure the guest leaves extremely happy, they have the best experience, and that they're going to have something to tell other people about. So they walk in the door and they may be greeted by the hostess, or they call the phone and they make a reservation, right? They get sat and the first thing they do is Buster brings them waters, or the server goes and greets them. If they order food, the food runner's gonna run out their appetizer, the food runner's gonna run out their entrees, the bartender's gonna make their drinks, right? All those moments when anytime an employee is going to have an interaction with the guest, that's a personal human interaction, we have to map out those touch points, and then we have to see how we can make it special, how we can make it unique, how we can make it elevated. For example, if your food runners are going, salmon, salmon, there you go, anything else? Okay, enjoy. You failed, right? They just check boxes in that moment. Even though they're just a food runner, they still have a part of the experience. They have a moment to elevate the experience, so we have to train the food runner. First of all, greet the guest. How are you tonight? Awesome. And I see that you ordered the salmon. Have you had this dish before? Oh my God, you're in for such a treat. Our salmon's wild caught, so it has a really nice buttery flavor, but the blue blanc sauce that we make in-house from scratch, that melts and melds with the salmon so well that when you take a bite, it just melts in your mouth like butter. I hope you enjoy. That's a very different experience than just salmon. There you go. So little things like that go a long way. We want to map out that experience. We need to create training and systems for the team to A, train on it, so they have the information, the knowledge to do it, and then B, we have systems in place to make sure that they do it and that they have a structure to follow. We want them to give them structures to follow. If we just say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and I want you to do this. Okay, cool, got it. I'm gonna try, but we'll see. And then I have to remember, I have to create my own system as an employee, and that's where everything fails. People aren't naturally gonna create a system or are not good at creating systems. So we create the systems for them to simply follow. They elevate it with their hospitality and personality, and then we have our leadership team above it to make sure that it's getting done. We create KPIs and metrics to make sure all of these are manageable and measurable. Now, when they're measurable, you're probably saying, well, Preston, my managers can't be at every table at every time. How can we possibly measure that? There's a litany of different ways. It's all about getting creative, but there's very simplistic ways to do it. There's very basic ways, there's high level ways, but either way, no matter what process you use, will work to be able to measure it and manage it. It's just coming up with those metrics in the first place and the KPIs to manage it. Once we have those KPIs, then we can give that to the management team and they can actually manage it. Now we have systems and training for them. And what those systems and trainings are for is to make sure that they know how to follow up easily. I can easily give my leadership team structure to follow up. Not saying, go follow up more, follow up, you should follow up. Well, what does that look like? How do I do it? I don't want to do it. That seems hard. How do I measure that? How consistent do I have to be? That's extra work on my plate. I don't want to be the enemy. I don't want to be the bad guy. Well, we're going to show you how to follow up simply and strategically, so it's effortless, and then we're gonna show you how to hold them accountable when necessary. Because to actually accomplish all of this, to have a high functioning restaurant that's super successful, you have to have accountability in the restaurant. So we're gonna show you how to hold people accountable, and that's gonna be part of our culture. And once you have all that built out, you're gonna start noticing something major happening in your restaurant. That you're gonna have a consistent, elevated hospitality experience that everyone's bought into. everyone's excited about and everyone's willing to do. And it's gonna be consistent. So you're gonna have that going on. You're gonna start batting at a very high average. Now that you have that, at the end of the meal, when your team has given that guest an amazing experience, all they have to say is, would you mind leaving me a review? It would mean a lot to me. And with those simple words, the guest who just had an amazing experience from you and they absolutely love you are gonna say absolutely, because naturally humans want to give back. If I buy you a gift, the first thing that's gonna cross your mind is, I gotta do something nice for him. I have to buy him a gift. I have to go do something nice for him. That's the first thing that's gonna cross your mind. If I buy you a gift, you're not gonna say, thanks, nice gift. You're gonna say, I want to do something special for him now. So that's the same thing here. When someone actually gives the effort and shows you that they care and gives you energy, they're gonna wanna give back. And so when you ask them for a review, it's a snap call, yes, absolutely. Okay, and then after that, you can have a QR code. Here you go. If you just scan that, I'm gonna go process your payment. If you just wanna scan that, leave a review, I would appreciate it so much. For sure, no problem, boom, absolutely. A lot of times what they'll do is they're so excited about it, they'll actually show you their phone. Is this okay? See what I wrote? You know, and then you go, oh yeah, oh my God, thank you so much, right? And they leave the review. This will quadruple your 5-star reviews within a matter of months because you have a system in place and you have a safe-proof system. And now, when we had that restaurant where the girl got 140 reviews in 1 month, I wanna put that in perspective. She got alone, just her, one person. Before that, they're getting about 15 to 20 reviews on average a month in total. So they've had a huge push. I've also noticed something else. People, because they always ask, they train their staff, how'd you hear about us, by the way? If they ask if it's their first time joining. The uptick in people saying reviews has dramatically increased. That's like the biggest reason why new people have said they've come in is because, oh, we saw your reviews online, we had to come check you out. That's the power of this. So they got 140 reviews, this one girl, and I interviewed her. I said, I wanna know what's working and what's not. I wanna understand her process. And I already knew the answers to most of the stuff. First things first, I asked, what do you say to ask a review, right? Some people think it's like this thing, it's a script. You gotta say the right things at the right time and you gotta present it a certain way. You don't want to sound desperate or whatever it is. And she just said, did you enjoy your experience tonight? Or how was everything? Oh, it was amazing, thank you, awesome. Would you mind doing me a favor and leaving me a review? That would mean a lot. Oh yeah, absolutely, awesome. And then I said, with 140 reviews, did you have anybody who looked at you funny, who thought that they gave you a vibe or even said anything about how that was a little bit unclassy or not right, or they felt like you were intruding or anything like that? She said, 0, awesome. Is there a time you felt uncomfortable asking after the fact? Did they make you feel uncomfortable? They give you that vibe? 0. So then I went up to the manager who's in charge of all the reviews and I said, did you have anybody who left a review saying, I had a great experience, but the server asked for a review at the end and it ruined the experience? Or anything negative about the server asking for a negative review? 0. Okay, and then I asked all the managers, I said, has anybody gotten a complaint, whether a guest walks up after the end of the meal or they call or wrote an email and said, I had a great experience, but your server asked me for a review at the end of the meal and it was a little bit out of line? 0. Have you noticed your numbers going up and your guest retention going up month to month? Yes. Have you noticed your sales going up month to month? Yes. Have you noticed your per person average going up month to month? Yes. Okay, because I hear a lot from this research that we're doing that you have all the numbers that you want and none of the numbers that you don't want. Is that correct? Absolutely. Are you guys gonna keep doing this? 150%. Absolutely yes. And so that's the point, is that there's always this resistance to getting reviews, to managing reviews, to monitoring reviews, to pushing reviews. The only way a guest is gonna feel jaded by a server asking for a review is if the server gives them a subpar experience. You did nothing to earn a review and you're asking me for a review, right? And so we gotta make sure we stay away from that. So that's why this front part's so important to have down. We gotta make sure that we know we're giving a really good hospitality experience in order for us to push our staff to ask for reviews. And that will lead to a litany of success because it's a synergy thing, right? It's a compounding thing. By doing all of this, we're actually getting them to spend more money. We're getting them to come back. We're getting them to tell their friends and family. We're actually just doing the final piece of multiplying guests into 3, which is asking for a review. If you're serious about combating the labor and the food costs and all that good stuff, if you're seriously serious about combating it, then what I would do is I would recommend you focusing on this piece alone, right? This will widen your margins. This will combat all of that. This will put you in a place where your business becomes untouchable. It becomes recession-proof. It becomes all the things that worry you. It makes it stronger and better, but we have to focus on these things. But if you don't, then you're just gonna be left being that owner who says, I'm gonna open the doors and I'm gonna hope for the best, right? And hope is not a strategy.